So is it female friendship or plain toxic behavior? In this video, I would like to talk more about how we've normalized toxic behavior as female friendships, or this is just like girls are. Hi, my name is Alex Golovko. I'm a somatic and yoga coach, and I talk about setting boundaries, get over people pleasing, and build better relationships with people because you are now a more equal part of that relationship. And as part of that, today's topic, I really want to talk about a lot of behaviors we've normalized among us women, and specifically toxic behaviors that we kind of integrated as being normal part of being a friend with another girl. And it's kind of very sad because having this in general societal understanding of how a female friendship should be actually influences us in thinking that these are normal behaviors and these are something to be expected from another girl or another woman. And actually, it's not. And it's really something that's symptomatic of a low level of self-realization or not having met their demons and coping mechanisms that they have built over time. So today I want to talk about a little bit what are those types of behaviors that I'm talking about, the toxic type of behaviors, and then explain where they're coming from and also talk about how we actually can overcome that on our level and clear up our relationships and how this can actually impact the whole of society. So let's talk a little bit about these behaviors. First of all, it's a lot about needing the other person for certain things. So, for instance, this relationship is not just about the friendship, the mutual support, but there is an interest behind that in that relationship, or the person really looks for you as part of a service or an expectation for you to do something to them. So this is not a pure friendship. This is a friendship that is instrumental and where you are expected to deliver certain things to the other person, which is not really the point of friendship at all. And one can say this is kind of this narcissist people pleaser dynamic where one is asserting their power, using the other person lets them being used. Although it's not really their fault because they're not aware of them being part of this process. But as soon as they become aware and they start working on it, usually the other person doesn't like that. And that's usually a pretty good sign that the relationship had some sort of toxicity in it or some sort of codependency in it. And another thing is competition between women. And that's a horrible thing that is tainting a lot of our relationships with other women. It's this idea that there is scarcity for men, for opportunities, for many things, and we always look at others to compare ourselves. And we forget that we actually are unique, every one of us, and we can't really compare ourselves because we have these unique paths. But to receive approval, we learn that we need to be compared to others. Maybe it was in childhood. Your parents were saying that you need to do better than XYZ in school. So since then, you kind of learn to compare yourself to people that are in your category, and particularly women. And this taught you that you are in competition with other women. You are not. And this is a very important idea to understand for yourself and also apply to how you see other women and how you see your friendships with other women. Because as long as you believe that you're in a competition with them, this will affect all your relationships with them as well. And it's a very big problem today in our relationships. We are always looking at the other and trying to diminish the other person instead of bringing them up, and not understanding that us bringing people down is overall lowering the entire standard of everybody. Rather than lifting people up is lifting ourselves up as well. So it's a very kind of frequent behavior and a frequent thing that comes with these friendships. Gaslighting is another issue because they tend to invalidate what you would say, they invalidate your needs, they invalidate your feelings so that they can get their way Because as long as you stop believing in what you're feeling to be true, that's when you lose your power. So basically, again, another way to disempower you, or another toxic or narcissistic behavior that's kind of normalized in female friendships. And then finally, the idea of gossip and talking about you behind your back. Usually the clue is if they talk about somebody else to you behind their back, that definitely means that they're talking about you to somebody else behind your back. So that's just your basic indication. If they're doing it to others, they are doing it to you as well. And that goes together with the competition issue. As soon as you feel like you need to bring other people down for you to lift yourself up, that means that you will be doing that by talking about other persons in their absence and lowering them down in the overall perception of people. So yeah, that's pretty low vibration behaviors that are unfortunately kind of normalized in female friendships. But let's talk about why this is. Like, why are we like that? Well, a lot of it is connected to the place of women in society and the fact that there was discrimination in the past, and there was, even to this day, in many places in the world, there are a lot of discriminations still happening. And women have learned to leave rather for survival than for personal alignment and realization. This has been the current pattern up until now, survival. And for survival, you're staying in very low type of vibrations. So let me go deeper into this, into why is it that when you're in a survival mode, you're not able to go beyond a certain level of understanding of other people because your priorities are quite low. So let's talk about that a little bit. And for this, maybe you're familiar with chakras, maybe you're familiar with the pyramid of needs that exist as well. This is what I'm gonna use as a framework for you to better understand what this means. So basically, like, you have this list of chakras that we have, or list of needs, if you want to call them this way here, that we have. And the first of them, the first chakra, the Muladhara chakra, or the root here, is about bodily needs and survival. And basically, this is the starting point of where our energy comes into our bodies. The energy starts right here at this point. And before it goes any further, it stays here. So it's our point of survival. Every animal, every living being has that type of survival mechanism that is deeply rooted in them in any shape or form. What this energy wants us to do is to do anything that is required for us to live on. So that could be not necessarily for our well-being, it could be just for survival basically, but doesn't talk about feeling good or having comfort or kind of self-realization at all. It's just basic survival. And as long as we are in this difficult society, in this disadvantaged place, it is very difficult for us to get out of this level. Once we kind of get the comfort and the safety that fills this need, this basic need is filled, then we can go to the next step, which is the second chakra, which is connected to pleasure or enjoyment. So pleasure and enjoyment is the moment we start to seek creativity, realization, or some sort of understanding what makes us feel good in a very basic way. Sometimes it's where addictions come in, something fulfilling that we want to repeat and that we want to seek out to. The next step, once this is there, so imagine that you have your survival mechanism, you have the pleasure part that is there, then only after that, you arrive at the third chakra, which is basically your identity. And that's where you start to explore who you really are, what you stand for, what are your passions, what is it that you really are about, and your strength, maybe also your weaknesses, and your sense of ego or sense of being. Who are you actually, and what is this whole bodily, physical, and mental envelope that you're stuck into. So this means that this is only then when the first two needs are met that you start meeting that need of self-understanding. And this is also, by the way, the area where you're starting to developing your anger. And anger there is a kind of a defense mechanism that starts to protect and shield that part of your identity, what you start to developing when you start to understand yourself, etc. And then, only once you have those three really kind of earthly needs met, earthly, very basic. So once these are met, these are identified for you, then, only then, you start to move into the fourth chakra, which is really the kind of the most deep ones. It's love and compassion. That's only then that you are able to even start understanding other people and have compassion. First for yourself, once you have identified your safety, what brings you joy, what you are about, what are your values, what is your identity. And then once you have that, you start appreciating yourself first. So your own self-love, so your own compassion. And once you are able to understand yourself and your mechanisms, your understanding of who you are, then you can extend that to others. Basically, if that is not reached for you, you can't really understand what true love is for others, because first, to understand that, you need to extend it to yourself. Otherwise, love for others is going to be a little bit expecting something, or it will be an interaction that's not pure, deprived of expectations from the other person, basically. So from this point of view, this is the important parts. There is also the self-expression, where you basically start to express whatever you've built around here, your sense of safety, your sense of joy, identity, and compassion, starting expressing this to your outer environment. This is the job of this chakra. Finally, this chakra is about intuition, receiving signals from your higher self and your really deep core purpose. And then finally, the final chakra, the seventh chakra, is bliss. So I'm just sharing this with you to understand that there is some sort of sequencing in this process, in these needs built up. And a lot of women, because we are faced by difficult environments, in a lot of cases, we are not able to come out of the basic survival and maybe also at the lowest chakra, pleasure and identity protection, to be able to come into the place of compassion for the self and compassion for others. Because we are not there yet, a lot of us, we're staying in those behaviors that are actually very, very difficult for other women. So the only way out to kind of raise the vibration of our relationships with others, to clear them from basic survival needs, so that need from the other person, so the relationship with the other is something that you need something from them, or for instance, it's a relationship that's tainted by comparison because the other one is a threat. Again, comparison is basically thinking that another person is a threat to your success. The only reason why we are thinking that is because we're on a survival mode, because we think everything is a threat around us. So survival mode is where most of us are stuck, and this is why this is tainting female friendships a lot. But this is not the nature of female. This is not because we are female that we are bitching about others. No, this is not the reason. The reason is because a lot of us face a lot of difficulties, and this is how we've learned to cope with it. Whether this is this type of coping mechanism or whether it is people pleasing, so being on the kind of bullied end of the spectrum. So either you are the bully or you're the bullied one. So to come out of this, the only way out is to self-develop and really raise your energy, because once you enter into this area of love and compassion and you start to understand others, you start to understand why they behave the way they behave, you start calming your nervous system around other women, and you start not reacting actually to that type of behaviors. You start to extract yourself from that type of behaviors and not accepting them anymore, because you are now able to put boundaries, you have a strong sense of identity, and you know that your anger is not going to be just stay around in yourself, but you're going to use it to actually bring up some boundaries, to stay firm for yourself. And what this does is it's going to clear up all your relationships and filter them out for people that share the same type of vibration, or even the same type of vibration that you might have on the upper parts of your needs here, the more evolved parts of your needs. And what this will do, so if you encounter a person that is in this mode, you might actually, maybe not always, but you could actually inspire them to go into a more high vibration as well. Because this part, once you are in this more aligned part of you, you become more inspiring because you radiate positive energy. Of course, some people that are really stuck in survival mode and that are really stuck in this victimhood of being in this survival mode and not able to come out, they might not see this as a positive thing. But this is okay for you because you don't need such people in your life anyway. And those that are ready to come out and come up, you might inspire them. So having this work on yourself and raising your energy will only improve your relationships with others, inspire others, and trickle down and create this positive effect where other people will also embark on that same path. And basically what it does, it clears out what we call female friendships from these negative elements. So finally, what I really want to say here is that we should not accept this definition of female friendships as the reality. We should define what female friendships should be. And they should be compassionate, supportive, and community-based, so that we can actually lift ourselves up and not be in competition with each other. Because this is what keeps us down in a low state of development, in a survival mode, and prevents us from really living our lives fully. So this is really an important message I wanted to share today, and this is really my understanding of why a lot of the times this is how we understand female friendships. And there is a way out, and this way out is very individual, and you can do it by your own. If you do your work on yourself, you will improve your relationships and you might inspire others to do the same. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If there's any reactions or comments you might have, please feel free to share in the comments. I really would love to discuss and create this topic of discussion with you under this video. I have another video around why discipline is different for women, and if you'd like to know more about that, I will link it here. And if you like my content, please subscribe. I would love to have you on my channel. Really looking forward to have you more around here. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.